ceramics for a lot of automotive companies in the world, like Porsche, BMW, VW, and whatever you have. So we are one of the leading manufacturers in this. So lots of our experience in zirconia treatment comes from this area. The Nacera company was founded some 20 years ago, and they started something like a test. The former owner asked for more areas of work, and then they had the first engineer that was able to do dental zirconia. At least he had a general knowledge about this. And I joined the company 5 years ago. I'm a master dental technician, so I'm the head of technology in nacera company. So I'm in the development or part of the development of the discs. And I came 5 years ago from Vita company, where I was the head of training of all Vita trainings, the head of the test lab of Vita company, and the head of the complaints compartment of Vita company. But I opted to leave for my old home region here in the north of Germany, because the south of Germany is, when you have to move home, sometimes it's not that easy. People are really different. Okay, so this lecture is about nacera. In the end, we've got, I think, at least a quarter of an hour to talk about zirconia, and you can ask me any question you like. It's a relatively new material in dental restorations. We had these hipped ones and things that were not really made for the lab. That was changed a long time ago, and still is changing. The general structure of zirconium. You can see here, this is the modification, the cubic modification, very translucent modification, lots of yttria inside, but not the strongest modification. Here we've got the tetragonal modification. It is not the most translucent modification, but it's relatively stable. And here it's called monolithic. It's wrong. I have to change it. It's monocline. It's like it is in nature. It's completely unsorted and unsymmetric, and not really translucent. Now we come to a point that is really important in zirconia. It's the phase change of zirconia when a force is put on the material. So you've got here in the left picture a fracture coming from above into the material, and you've got all tetragonal grain in this material. It would be like a normal 3 yttria material, like we've got shaded. It's a 1200 megapascal standard material. Whenever the force hits one of these tetragonal crystals, it is changed to monoclinic. When this crystal is changed from this version here, from tetragonal to monoclinic, it will add volume to it. So it's getting bigger. You can imagine, this is only a sketch, when the force is inflicted on many of these tetragonal crystals, you will have a lot more volume added. And in the end, the beauty of the material in general, in zirconia, that is what it makes so tough and hard, is that it will compress the crack at a certain point where you've got enough tetragonal material changing to cubic material, to monoclinic material. So then the crack is compressed in the end at the tip and stopped. So the crack can't go through the material like in normal window glass or something else. So that is a good thing about this modification. Here you've got a material that is like 1000 megapascal material. The 1000 megapascal material is a mix between tetragonal and cubic. And you can clearly see that along this crack, you don't have that many tetragonal crystals any longer that can be changed. So the cubic can't change from cubic to monocline. So it can't compress the crack. So the crack stop function in this material, in these 1000 megapascal or less, or like cubic's got only 600 megapascal, is always weaker. Therefore, it's much more translucent. So you always have to find a balance. But I will go later into the details of this. Here you can see the temperature and grain growth. This is very important to know. So here you can see little black spots at 1300 degrees Celsius. These little black spots are porosities in the material. This is just a part of the material. Still here in 1350 degree, you still have some porosities. Porosities are never good in a material. So material must always be, material must always be very homogeneous. No blemishes, no cracks, no holes or whatever in it. So you can see here that at 1400 degree, this is the minimum temperature for the material to be homogeneous. So when you look at the grain is growing. It's getting bigger from here to there, from left to right. But with these lots of grain borders, you have a lot of scattering of light. So this will be very opacious. 1400 degree, barely strong enough, but very opacious material. Then you've got the next temperature, depending on the material you're using, because I know other people like Amman, they're using 1450 as their general temperature of sintering. They've got a different composition in the grain, but in general, this is the table like we have. 1450 degrees Celsius is the temperature to start. There you can start proper sintering. So our cubic material, for example, has got 1450 degree Celsius. 1500 degrees Celsius here in the middle is the optimum between strength and translucency. You have wider, larger grain borders, less grain border on the same space, meaning less scattering of light, more traveling of light. On the same way, you have a good connection between the grain. Yeah, you get an atomic connection between the different grains. And this is still very strong, giving you a very, very strong material. When you go to 1550 degree, you can see that the grain is growing. It's getting bigger and bigger. Like I said before, when it's getting bigger, it's getting more translucent. So the point is, when it's more translucent, it's getting weaker. Like any material, when you can have one or the other, you can't have any material that gives you everything. So in zirconia, it is either you've got something translucent or you've got something very strong. So that is just fact. Then you can see, I have to go back. Then you can see that we've got here 1600 degree. This is the temperature of zirconzahn, for example. I don't know how his composition of material is, but in general, all material is coming from, I would say, 4 or 5 sources worldwide. There are 4 or 5 powder manufacturers. One is Tozo, the other one is in, there's a second one in Japan, nearly as big as Tozo, a very good company. Then we've got a Chinese company, and then we've got some different companies. I don't know where they are, but we've got 4 to 5 producers. That said, you know that mainly every producer worldwide is using the first 3 sources. Either they buy their powder from China or they buy their powder from Japan. The Japanese powder is the best you can get in the world. So there is no quality problem with it. And they make all the science with it. So when they tell us, this is the table and these are the temperatures, we believe in them. And this is what we always did. This is what we do in the industrial branches as well, because you can imagine when Porsche is ordering large numbers of some ceramic parts, they don't discuss. When something goes wrong, you get the whole bunch back, and then you get a very sharp discussion with them. So we know how to handle this. We know how to handle zirconia in general. So it's let's go to the production process. Maybe many of you know already. It's a dry uniaxial pressing in a normal press. And then the disc is pressed, powder goes to a mold and pressed from upside and the downside together. This is not homogeneous. You can see here a dark spot, you got medium colored spots here, a different size spot here, so nothing is homogeneous in the first pressing. You need a lot of pressure to make it nearly homogeneous, and still it is not perfect. So we, like many other companies, go to isostatic pressing. So isostatic pressing, the disc is put by hand into a disc, into a bag, sealed under vacuum, another bag sealed again, and then it's put into a water tank. And this water tank is put under pressure with 3000 bar. So, and this 3000 bar is giving an enormous pressure on the whole disc. So in the end, it's shrinking a little bit, which is, it's taking more raw material, but it's absolutely homogeneous. Wherever you put something into the disc, it will always be the same shrinkage factor. So I go to the next one. We've got the turning at the moment. We are just thinking about changing this. We've got the optical 3D measurement, and there's another speciality. You can build an average. This is the furnace street where we make them in. It's got a second side and a third side. So we've got, I don't know, these are back. These are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times 3. I think we've got 21 furnaces for dental. And in each of these furnaces, you can pack up to 160 discs for one pre-sintering at round about 1000 degrees. What we do different is we unpack them from the furnace after 2 days when they cool down from 1000 degrees. And each of our discs is measured individually on this optical 3D measurement. So you don't get an average shrinking factor for everything in the furnace, because with the temperature in the furnace, it is on the bottom, the discs are colder. On top of the furnace, they are a little bit hotter. And the ones that are hotter have a different shrinkage. So with us, it's not an average shrinkage factor, it's a shrinkage factor for each and every disc, making it very, very precise. So now I go to methods of measurements, just to make everybody understand what is important when you judge materials. Some people give you a 3-point measurement, 3-point bending test, it's called here. You have a force from above, and you have 2 points on the bottom of the disc. And then you try to bend it in this direction until it breaks. And you measure the point where it breaks. A 3-point measurement measures only a very small area. When you've got a blemish, you measure only a very small point directly under the highest force, because here is the highest force, and here you will find any blemish in the specimen and it will break. The better you polish these specimen, the higher the results will be. So this is what I call specimen tuning. This is what we don't do. We polish our specimen and either put it into a 4-point bending test, making the area of measurement much larger, or we put it into a biaxial test. Then you've got 3 small spheres here underneath and a central sphere pressing from above. Having a lot of much bigger area to measure in is giving you a process measurement. So what you measure here is it can break here, here, here. You've got possibilities all over between these 2 points that you get a crack and that it will break. The better the material is produced, the more homogeneous it is, the less cracks you get here and the higher the values go here. But for sure, since you've got lots more possibilities for a crack, 3-point measurement is always round about 30% higher in value than a 4-point measurement. This is something you have to keep in mind. A 3-point measurement is the lowest possible method under norm 6872 to measure the material. So let's go over to the next one, fracture toughness. I've got many thoughts about this, and this is where people now in marketing discuss, but I'm not a marketing guy, I'm just a technician. The point is, measurement is clear, the specimen is clear, you cut into the ceramics a small gap, and then you bend it, and you will find out how good the fracture toughness under force is. In the norm for fracture toughness test, it is required that your cutting edge, here is a microscopic picture, but not from dental ceramics, has to cut at least one grain into two halves. So one ceramic grain must be cut into two halves with an edge. The point is, there is no edge on earth that can do this cut, because the ceramics grain is so fine, you have no knife, no edge, nothing at all, that you can cut half a grain of zirconium. When you can't do anything in testing according to the norm, forget about the testing results. They're not valid because they're not reproducible. So that is a big problem about this. I'm always looking at these things because I have to feed the marketing guys from a nacera company, but I told them since many years now, we try to stay on the honest line. We try to stay honest. In the end, the technician will find out when we tell him something that's not true. No? So that is never good. So this is Vickers test. You press a pyramid of diamond into the material, and then at the end of the diamond, you get cracks in the zirconium material. And these marketing guys from other companies said, this is a brilliant idea. What we do is we measure these lengths, and then we have a quality. The point is, you can't see the beginning of the crack, and you can't see the end of the crack. You need a very, very, very good microscope, and this is something that nobody knows or nobody uses. They know this, but they don't use it. And you can't really see where the source of the crack is. When you can't see the source of the crack, you can't tell the line is this long, and it's not valid too. So it's another problem with the testing. I tell you another thing that's interesting. So we found out that there is something I call dental Olympics. Dental Olympics is every manufacturer is telling you that he can make it harder, that he's got a better material, that he's got a brighter material, that he's got a nicer material, and so on, so on, so on. And some people tell you, we always got the cheapest material. So it's a wild, crazy market for everybody. It's too many things to decide. And I try to at least clean up a little bit. It is not that you have to buy our discs. So that is not about the lecture. About the lecture is that I clarify what's going on in the market. So here you can see that you've got a specimen thickness, 1.5 millimeter, 1 millimeter, 0.5 millimeter. You can see here you can see this is the opacity of the material. So this is Nacera Pearl 1. It's a white disc colored with normal classic liquids like we have our own, but zirconzan liquid or something, then you can imagine what it is. Here you've got Nacera Pearl shaded. It's a pre-colored monochromatic disc that is A3 from top to bottom. There is no translucency added or something. There is no transition in translucency. It's just A3 dentin, that's it. So you can see here, specimen thickness of 1.5 millimeter is giving you 86% of opacity, is giving you for sure 14% of translucency in A3. But then marketing comes in and tells, can't we take the raw material and measure the raw material because it looks better? So then we take the raw material without any color which is not correct, but you can do it. So measure the raw material, you get 10% more. You get 24% translucency, looking much better. Going down, specimen thickness 1 millimeter, you get 30% already. Going down further at the specimen thickness 0.5 of a millimeter, you get fantastic 44% translucency. First of all, this is really fake, because you don't need 44% translucency. When you have a material in color A3, it is never 44% translucency. So it is maximum 34% translucency in color A3, which is more than enough for the usual things in the mouth. The more, I was a former ceramist, and the more translucent you get, the more you switch to gray. If you look at some discs like the Ivoclar Prime GT, they've got a cut between tetragonal and cubic material, and when you don't paint it over, the cut between tetragonal and cubic material, you can see a line where it changes its translucency dramatically. And then in the mouth, it looks very often, it looks gray. It looks grayish. So what you need is, you need less translucency in some cases. Then you've got here a cubic, which is like Katana UTML or STML. It's our cubic, Pearl Nacera Q, 600 megapascal or 650 something. You can see here that in white material, it's got 31% translucency in 1.5 millimeter, but the real translucency in shade A3 in the incisor is 21%, 26%, and in 0.5, it is 41%. So very thin specimen thickness. You can see it when you mill a crown, that it needs to be very, very thin. So this is something everybody has to keep in mind. It depends all on the thickness of the specimen. And forget about this column here with the marketing things. I think this is not leading into the target. This is misleading the dental technician. And since I'm a dental technician myself, I don't like it. It is very important that you stay in normal values, and that you don't compare apple and pears. You have to be realistic. And when you're a technician, you know what I'm talking about. In the mouth, it needs to be good. It doesn't need to be good in your hand or in the window or wherever. In the mouth, it decides. Okay, go to the next material and indications. You've got in the norm 68, come on. Back. Where did I jump? Okay, here in this foil. You need minimum 500 megapascal to make, come on, to make 3-unit bridges. Minimum 500 megapascal. So cubics got 600, sometimes 650, depending on the measurement. I told you before, 3-point or 4-point or biaxial press measurement. It depends. Then you've got, this is class 4 in dental materials in norm 6872. And this line here is at 800 megapascal. The minimum requirement for larger bridges is 800 megapascal according to this norm. Whoever fulfills this is in the norm, and the material is okay for use. But there is something that has to be mentioned. Some people tell you they've got 1,000 megapascal material. Yes, they have 1,000 megapascal material, like for yttrium material, very often called 1,000 megapascal or 1,100 megapascal. But the point is, they measure an average through the complete disc. So on the bottom, where they've got less cubic material, for sure they've got more strength. And on top of the disc, in the incisor, where they've got much more cubic material in the mix, they've got less value. So When you look at people like Amman, they state that they've got 1100 megapascal in generation X in an average. They when you go to the details, you can see that they've got 850 megapascal in the incisor. So it is always like in a chain. The weakest part of the chain makes the decision of a chain that lasts or breaks. So this is something you have to keep in mind. It doesn't matter if they tell you our average is whatever, the average doesn't count. The weakest part in the disk counts. This is the decisive part when it cracks. So this is very, very important to keep in mind that it's about the weakest part, nothing else. So on to the next point about the nacera advanced process. So since we come from the industry, the people in the industry always have the desire to produce everything always in the same way, in the same quality, in an industrial standard. So my colleague Karl Hermann, who joined the company, I don't know, 6-7 years ago or 10 years ago, he is ceramics engineer, and he brought a lot of knowledge with him, a lot of knowledge about these process tools we have. So sometimes you've got a furnace with a molybdenum, silicium, or silicon heating. When it looks like this is no good because this is silicon oxide that's on the surface. And this silicon oxide can lead to discoloration in the direction of yellow for the material. So it should look like this, silky, smooth, and gray. How to get this back? I tell you now. So we've got something that is called nacera clean, and this is a small film. I just let it run. Hopefully it works. Yeah.
Hello and welcome to Dockeram Medical Ceramics in Dortmund. My name is Alexia Gaussmann, and I will show you today the correct use of nacera calibrate set for sintering furnaces. First, unpack all parts from the calibrate case. Take one ceramic ring from the delivered packaging. Place this ring on your sintering tray between the restorations to be sintered. Start the sintering program as used. After the sintering process is completed, remove the ceramic ring from the tray and get the measuring gauge from the set. Insert first the gray calibration body into the device. Tap slightly the base plate to align the calibration gauge. Set the gauge dial to the material-specific value given on the ceramic ring's packaging. There are different types of lots available. Here, for example, we sintered 3 white TZP pearl material at 1500 degrees Celsius. With pearl, we have to calibrate to 64. With the gray body still positioned, turn the dial gauge until it indicates 64. Replace now the calibration body by the sintered ring and read the value. Each scale mark corresponding to 2 degrees Celsius, counting from 0 to the left, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 degrees. Ideally, this value should be 0. If you observe a deviation on the left, like in this case, the temperature into the furnace chamber was too high. The sintering program will be adjusted 10 degrees lower. Let me illustrate by another example. If at the contrary, the deviation is observed on the right from the zero, like here, 11 scale marks corresponding to 22 degrees Celsius, the sintering temperature will have to be increased to 22 degrees higher. I hope this video helps you understanding and getting great and constant results. Don't hesitate to contact us for more information. Keep in touch and stay well.
Okay, so that was the first video on Calibrate. Very useful tool to calibrate your furnace. This is very important in sintering. This is one of the most important steps, and I think still we are the only ones who offer this. And we already worked on the Calibrate Mark II for the future. So one day in the future, we will bring something a little bit easier. But I think with this explanation, it's already easy to use, and it's very useful. I always tell a dealer, for example, or people with a larger lab to buy this device because first of all, it's not very expensive, but it's a very powerful tool. So after you know how much deviation you have in the furnace, you know the furnace will lose its function step by step like a car brake. But you don't have a good feeling for it because the change of color, change of translucency in the crowns goes so slow. And there you always have a chance to calibrate your furnace. Once in a while, we tell people to calibrate their furnace when it's used every day with big loads, maybe every 2 months. And when it's used frequently, not every day, maybe calibrate 3 times a year. So then you always know that the temperature in your furnace that is given in your display is the correct temperature. So it could be that the display will show you something like 1500 degree you need for sintering the material. You type it in, but the furnace doesn't give you 1500 degree because the isolation in the furnace, for example, will lose part of its function over the years. Yeah? And then the furnace has to power more and more to give it the required heat to keep the temperature up. So just go to sorry. Now I go to Nacera Clean, another video. This is the video normally I wanted to show first, but okay. This is the video about the material we have for cleaning the furnace. Like I said before, when the heating rods have these whitish material on top, these silicon oxide, you need to do something. So my advice is to clean the furnace chamber with a vacuum cleaner when it's really cold, and then take the tray and put, you can see it in the video, it's better explained, and put Nacera Clean on top of this, and then do a regeneration firing. The regeneration firing meaning, first of all, ask your furnace producer how to do it. Many of them know how to do it. Some of them have a program that exists. And otherwise, the advice is to go to the highest possible temperature of the furnace, hold it for 30 minutes, and go with the highest possible heat rate so that the heating rod will glow through. Otherwise, when it's heated slowly, it goes on, off, on, off. And this has to be avoided by going up very steep in temperature. So I'll show you the video now.
Hello and welcome to Docera Medical Ceramics in Dortmund. My name is Alexia Gaussmann, and I will show you today the correct use of Nacera Clean LT powder. First, vacuum clean your furnace chamber and the sintering trays you are using. For a complete cleaning cycle or basic cleaning, fill your sintering tray with the right amount of powder to cover its surface. sintering furnace is designed for several trays, fill them all with the same amount of powder. Place them all in the furnace chamber and run your sintering program. Repeat after that the process if required. For a maintenance cleaning, or to avoid your sintering furnace to be polluted, use Clean LT in each sintering process. Put a small amount of the powder on the lid and spread it to increase the reactive surface on which the impurities can settle.
The sound is not. Mm. Can we hear it as a sound? Okay.
Hesitate to contact us for more information.
Yeah, I switched on.
Keep in touch and stay well.
Okay, calibrate we already had. This is a picture of a milling test. This is the norm test now. That was done by our engineers. So they call it a Merlon test because they are all fans of, I don't know, Lord of the Rings or something. I never read this. I've got no time. I have to play with a child instead. This is real. And the wall thickness here is 0.2 of a millimeter. So it's just to show how thin the wall thickness in our disc can be milled without breaking. That's just another test. And this is called nacera inspection. You can see here that you've got a crack running along here and here. So what we did is we took this big bridge and then I heated it up to 1100 degree in a furnace. And then I took some cold, really cold scissors and inflicted a crack here because I needed a crack to show what this nacera inspection does. It's a bath of liquid. You put big work into this liquid and you will detect under ultraviolet light blemishes when there's a crack or something before you go and veneer everything in painful work. You can see that there's something wrong. If everything is good, fine. But it's just another method to test your material and avoid more work. So in my eyes, it is really important to do all of these things. I will close this PowerPoint now and open another one to show BlueX because Bassem asked me to show BlueX. Just go out of these. Just a second. Just have to look if he's got something in it. It's a guy from Italy called Germano Rossi. And no, don't want to work in this PowerPoint, just want to show. Okay, it's a very good Italian technician. Maybe in the end, if you're interested in some lectures from him, I can make a contact for you, Besson, because he's doing all these big bridges in Italy. He's working with people in Roma and on all the universities, so he's a very, very good technician. And he worked with these materials that are all the materials we work with usually. This is what he did. He made this bridge. It's not from the new materials, it's from one older material. This is the cutback. This is Blue X. So here you can see in Blue X is a liquid that is blue, comes in a bottle. When you paint Blue X on the incisor of a crown, the number of units is limited to maximum 4. Normally, I would say a certain span. In the old instructions, we've got 3. I made it 4 because it doesn't work in the anterior. Sometimes you've got a very small span in the lower jaw and you can't do 4 units. So it's doesn't make any sense. It is limited due to the fact that this is real yttria. This is nothing else. It is real yttria. So you are dotating the material and you're changing the internal structure. And you can see in this little picture that it goes from less translucent to much more translucent. So you're changing the material yourself from 3 yttria, normal tetragonal material, to 4 yttria material. So you don't need to change the whole disc and weaken the whole disc. You're just changing only partially the disc. And on top of this, it's not even weakening it because it's surrounded by the 3 yttria material and builds up pressure due to the change of volume. So the 4 yttria material is building up a little bit more volume, pressing against the material outside, building up more pressure. It's even stronger afterwards. So the only downside is when you apply too much of the Blue X in the wrong sizes, wrong places, like connector area or somewhere, you can get torsion in the bridge. So this is where you have to be aware and really, really careful. This is what I call an expert material. When people are really good, they can use it. They have to get used to it, but don't paint everything in Blue X because it gives you not the best result in the world. You have to get used to it. Once you're used to it, it's a beautiful material. So we worked a lot with it. So that is where he applies it now. And this is how he prepares the bridge with the colors. And this is what he's doing in his courses as well. And there you can see this translucent, grayish, translucent effect. So this is a monolithic material and then changed with Blue X, the base layer, and then he applies all the colors from Serum Ocean One Touch and modifies the whole bridge. I just go to the end, hopefully. Come on, next picture. So he's doing a lot of this work and everything for the mouth for sure. So that is what it looks like in the mouth. It is for sure a little bit layered, but only with paste ceramics. It's nothing dramatic, and that is what it looks like in the mouth. For sure, Italian patient, southern people like to have brighter teeth, but that's not special for the south. It's the same in Germany now. So, multi-layer A light. Just go through it quickly. That's how it paints it. Mixture between the normal colors, and here you can see the translucency, how it comes in the corners everywhere. So it's augmented. It's getting better and better. And here you can see how he prepares. It looks like bone. In the end, it ends up as like gum. So he will veneer this. But you can see what he does. It's not much. And in the new materials we developed just one now that's going to the market very, very soon. You don't even need to layer on top. This is directly as it needs to be. So this is, I really like his work because it's always impressive. Outside and inside the mouth, it's always good work. Yeah, there it is in the mouth. No, okay, escape. Okay. Just one last small video and then we can go to question and answer. This is our brand new material called Nacera Natural. And these are one of the first few tests. This is in the same category like Amann Gierbach Generation X and the Ivoclar Prime GT. So this is self-explaining, the video. This is called Nacera Natural because it's really natural looking. I got one picture I don't know, 2 hours ago. I got a picture from Witten, from a guy who made a big work, but it's just a handy photograph. But it is good. It looks very promising, the material. He was very happy as a dental technician, and patient seems to be happy as well. Yeah, shade is very good, and you can see how it looks in the mouth. It's made in Switzerland, the work, and that was just a prototype he had. It looks better even today. We put a lot of things to it, so it's looking even better. But this is how it looks. The centrals and the laterals done in this, and they are blocked and together. So, okay. So if you've got any questions, just go ahead, whatever you have.
Thank you, Mr. Gassman, about very interesting information you shared with us. It's very beautiful, interesting information. We have the question, what's your preference, 3-point test force or 4-point to give the flexural strength in a clear or correct way?
The best is, or the most important is that you know that a 3-point measurement will give you 30% higher values. So when you compare a 3-point measurement to a 4-point measurement, you have to keep this in mind, that the 3-point measurement on the paper looks better, but you have to you have to calculate that it's 30% less. Yeah, the 4-point measurement is much more critical and giving you 30% less. So you have to add on a 4-point measurement 30% to compare both. That is very important.
One question about we can use short sintering cycle for your material, and what is the average of impact on this short average on the final flexural strength?
In our material is the speed sintering cycle is like you start with 60 degree to 1000. And I would advise that you get the information from Regina to every customer you have. So we can send it out directly. We've got the curves graphic and we've got instructions for use. But I will explain it. It's a 90-minute curve, single unit only, and 90 minutes sintering. 60 degree to 1000, 40 degree to end temperature. Stay at the end temperature for half an hour. Then go down 40 degree to 1000 degree, go down to 300 degree and open the furnace. This is round about 90 minutes. And this is a very short cycle, but it's approved by the nacera engineers. It's okay. They never had any failure. They measured in crack test and everything is fine. It's good. It works.
One question about stabilizer. How long span bridge we need then to use the stabilizer in the CAM software?
The stabilizers, what do you mean? The connectors or the stabilizer itself?
Yes, the stabilizer, the support
Yeah,
in
okay,
the
there's
long
many
span bridge
different
to
there's many different sinter supports. So it would be a topic in itself to show everybody how to sinter, how to support correctly. This is a video we will make in the future, in the relatively near future, although we've got so many things to do now. This is depending on the situation. The only thing I can tell you is the connection when you've got a large span bridge, for example, should be where you have the canines, where it goes into the curve, the large span bridge, and on the last units. So when you've got, for example, a bridge from 7 to 7, yeah, here at least in Europe we tell 7 to 7. So when you've got a bridge from 7 to 7, you have to connect at 7 and at 3 and maybe at 1 interdental. So this is 3 connectors to the support, to the sinter support. And then my advice is always to sinter it standing, and the sinter support itself inside can be either filled with crowns when you've got something in the correct color, but you have to take care that the sintered support is thinned out correctly. So it can't be too thick. It must be a little bit thinned out.